Thank you for coming back to join us. This is going to be our second video all about law of attraction and the sandbox technique that we introduced earlier. And in this video, we're going to get into the ins and outs of the consequences of manifestation, talk a little bit more about the theory behind it, and how to be a better advocate for yourself in this process rather than your own worst enemy. So, one of the things that we talked about briefly in the previous video was the importance of boundaries. And a lot of people will first initially think of this as boundaries from everybody else, but the greatest boundary is from yourself. And when we talk about this, just very briefly and succinctly, we're talking about what's considered the undertow of your life experience. So, the undertow of your life is not just this lifetime, but it's all of the karma that you bring from all of your previous and past lives. It has to deal with the general overview of your life story. So, is your life story about being the victim who finds their personal strength, who goes through this journey? Is it about a person who's an entrepreneur who has an idea for the world? The general overview of your life. It's also made up from the people who you allow in your life and the people who you were born into this life with, and the imprints of success or failures that they put upon you and that you accept. And it's the influences of your environment, psychic engagement, all of these things. These comprise a sum total of who you are or your undertow. So if you do something and it's say you've been having this life experience and you're 36, you've had 36 years of accumulated momentum of all of these things in your life, which if you're looking at an iceberg, that's the 80% that's underneath the water that creating the current in the direction of your life, and the visible portion of your life that's signaling, hey, something is out of control. That's only the 20% of the tip of the iceberg of all the things underneath the water. So the more you do the manifestation, the first thing that will come up is people will think their life becomes incredible overnight. That's the first myth, and it's not. You actually will have a detox experience that can come up as you start working through the things of what you don't need. And if you would give more of an explanation of how this detox experience shows up, and there's a word for it even in some people who are familiar with Kundalini, like you have, is it Shakti Pod or what's the term?
In Christianity, I think it's called dark night of the soul.
Okay. And what does this experience look like for a lot of people, this detox process?
It's life coming to a head. It's essentially in the big picture, you have a spiritual purpose for being here, and most people want to have a religious or a spiritual perspective, but not a spiritual purpose for being here. And then, what defines a purpose? What are we doing? And it has to do with people and community and how we participate in this great plan that we call life. What happens is in this dark night of the soul event or the Shakti pod that Fran's talking about, you are walking down life and seeking out what you want, what you desire. And the powers that be up above sit back and say, you're supposed to be crossing paths with certain relationships. You're supposed to be exposed to certain events. You're supposed to be in a place where your personality shifts and changes, your perspective, your belief system, because of events, shifts and changes. So you can be more on the path of your spiritual purpose.
And this is like the birth point, the seed of the awakening. So I mentioned earlier about the Shakti Pot process, and for Christianity, the dark night of the soul. And we say these things, and we have a Christian base, but it's based on the idea of Christ being the person who comes and makes the pathway possible. Okay, so we'll talk about that in another video, but I want to make people know that this is for everybody. It's not for any particular sect or another. So that's how we bring cross-cultural and different religious examples in, because it's a welcoming podcast for anyone. It doesn't dictate any change in your dogma, belief systems, or experiences. But the aspect is awakening often is brought upon by chaos. And it's often only in the chaos do you find the cream that rises to the top. When you agitate and you allow things to settle, it's when what is needed rises to the surface, and it gives you that clarity when the storm goes away to say, wow, after all of that, I realize these are the things that are most important to me. Or, wow, I can't believe I allowed myself to really get this far out of control. And this is what I realize I need to focus more on in my life on these areas. So, when you have these awakening experiences, we always laugh and joke that people think that awakening is going to a spiritual retreat or meditation center and having this beautiful blossoming of the flower of life and a yoga, a sutra response. And no, it's a shitstorm. And so if you have a lot of crazy stuff happening to you, it's probably a good sign that's saying that life is telling you you need to wake up, you need to reach your potential, you're ready for a shift to occur. And only when you've been in the shitstorm long enough do you have the magic words that say, I need to make a change. Why is that principle of responsibility so important? And why are people who are just doing law of attraction before they've reached the level of responsibility making a mistake?
First, let's look at the build up to the question you're asking. We come into this life and we have a contract, which means you have a predestined timeline or outline of what your life's going to be about, the body you choose, the family you come in with. You know, and some people say, oh, wait a minute, so you're telling me I can also choose that bad things are going to happen to me. That's not how it works. When you stand before the contract, when you're up in heaven, and you are deciding, you're not shown all the possibilities, all of the cause and effects, all of the consequences of your actions. You're only shown that this is the best timeline for where you are right now to enter into for all the things that need to unfold for your predestined, your karmic stuff. What is karma? Karma are cycles in your life, the same type of experiences, same type of cycles, same type of relationships, the same undertones that keep coming up over and over and over for people. Can this be changed? Yes, you can change all of it. We can teach you how to do it yourself, but yes, you can change your karma. When you come into this life, you're going to have the people that you're exposed to, you're around, they're going to help shape your personality. This is your fate, your personality shaped by the people that you are exposed to. And then the events of your life are going to shape your perspective. We call this your destiny. So when you're a young child and you sit back, when I grow older, I want to be, and you ask a whole bunch of kids, and they want to be a fireman, they want to be a policeman, they want to be an astronaut, they want to be a superstar, they want to be a rock star, they want to be whatever. So we have our fate and our destiny. Now we think it's all by chance. It's not. And we think that the family we're born into is by chance. This is predetermined or pre-chosen. It's all part of the whole reincarnation process. Reincarnation process goes on for all of us, even me. It's just part of this matrix experience in this simulation. And when there are certain rules, you got the fate, you got the karma, you got the destiny, you have the higher spiritual purpose. So you're going through life for the general outline of what life's about, meeting the people, have the experiences, the friendships, or the betrayals, all the good and all the bad stuff that happens in your life. And until you find, hopefully, a greater fulfillment and you're on your path. And your path may not be spiritual, your path may be scientific. Your path may not be religious. It may be something that's simple where you are doing whatever. So there's no right way or wrong way. All paths lead to God, or all paths lead back to God. What we're trying to identify is how in this life can we make the best of it with the least amount of effort in the shortest amount of time. So we're not sitting back saying, gosh, had I known at 20 years old what I know at 50, my life would be completely different. Actually, it wouldn't. Because you're caught on this railroad track, this train track, this predeterminism of what your life generally is going to be about. And you have the choice. The interesting thing is, when you have, or you deal with karma, karma is signaled by a connection into something. So when you meet a person and you have, oh man, I feel a real powerful connection, that's karma, man. That's actually a bad sign. That's letting you know that you're entering into a relationship with a person and an object, a location, or event that is a repeat of the past. Now tell me, when now in your life do you want to date someone in the past that you've moved away from or moved on from? Or when in this life now do you want to repeat the same limited experiences that you have when you're younger. I mean, realistically, for the most part, nobody wants to. They want a better version of it, a greater version of it, or a cleaner version of it. So we're looking at how we can identify what to avoid. And one of the common mistakes that people are taught is lightning strikes. Wow, I really know you. That's incredible feeling. Wow, it's amazing. For us, it's the kiss of death. It's letting you know that you're entering into a very powerful karmic experience. Life's not about, for us, repeating the past. It's about moving forward, stepping up, moving forward, stepping up, moving. I want to go from my soul experience into a higher spiritual experience.
And it's a balance, because I want to say, when you say it's moving forward and stepping up, it's like a spiral staircase. You must have both the upwards and the forwards, because that involves all 6 of your chakras. The upwards are, the higher 3 chakras, the forwards are the lower 3 chakras. And people try to tell you that you need to just focus on your life on spiritual evolution and this ascension process. Well, that actually speed up your process of becoming distant and disassociated from life and withdrawing. And in the short term, you'll think that you're having this hermit, amazing Shangri-La experience, but it's actually going to cause you to possibly check out of this life faster, because you must have the grounding. You must have the being here. You must have the presence in this state and interacting with things on this world front to stay connected. And that's a whole nother video, really in and of itself, but I just wanted to point that out, and that everything's about balance.
So what he's talking about is your predetermined fate, karma, destiny is something that you actually need to be here. It's part of your contract, part of your purpose. So you can go after all the spiritual stuff, but you still need the base reason of why you're here. If we lose the reason or the purpose of why we're here, we're going to check out. I don't care how amazing life seems. You're going to sit back and say, I lost my purpose. I've lost my reason for being here. I don't understand what I'm doing here. And poof, that's the worst situation you can be in. So we want to be aware of the fate and karma destiny. We want to take advantage of it instead of being defined and controlled by it. How? So the first one is whenever we have a connection. So let's say you and I were to meet. Hopefully when you and I meet, you sit back and say, gosh, Joseph, I didn't feel a thing when I met you. That's an amazing thing. The next step of amazing is when you leave my space, do you feel like you're missing being around me? Gosh, I really, you know what? I didn't feel any connection being around you, Joseph. But when I left, I felt like I was missing something, like I was missing a part of my wholeness from being around that guy. That means that you don't feel the connection on the soul karmic level. You leave, and this very subtle, powerful, I feel like I'm missing something when I'm away from him, is your higher spiritual experience. So it means that we are connected on a higher spiritual level. If you get around me and say, I feel a connection, or I feel repelling, or I get around Joseph and I can't stand the guy, or I love the guy, that means it's karmic. So you want to be aware of it. Now, karmic doesn't mean that you should deny those people in your life through karmic relationships. It means you need to redefine what are those relationships about. So when you look at these relationships, you go back to what we've talked about in a previous technique, the sandbox. You sandbox to look at yourself, you go into the future of who you want to become. This quantum leap, this quantum perspective. Then you bring it back and associate, why do I have this interaction with my friends, with my family, with my lovers, with my spiritual connections, with my religion, with my belief system. And if there's a powerful connection, it's karmic. And it's part of the cycle to repeat over and over and over. And this is the beauty and the mystery and the danger of life. If it's karmic, you're going to have a connection. So an object, whether it's a location, a person, an object, a location, or an event, do you feel the connection? If you do, then it's a powerful one. Beware. If lightning strikes, ka-cha, oh my God, the incredible intensity. That means you had a really, really intense karmic connection to the person. And actually it's a signal of you don't walk away, you turn and run away. Okay, that being said, if we can understand that the connection is a bad thing, but the state of and sharing more of our overflow with another person that we are comfortable being around is a really good thing. But initially, the youthful mind or the youthful person is not going to be a place where they're going to say, I am overflowing with fortune and well being and good health and relationships, perspective. They're going to be, I want to get out there and I want to feel just connections to life. Okay. Once again, the connection is bad.
Now, let's take a step back from that. So, what we're trying to narrow that point down to is it really gets into this is also a topic we'll cover on a series about relationships with soulmates versus like partnerships. But the energy is similar to what we're talking about now. So, when you have that visceral, that deep, that lightning strike connection, that sparky experience, like you go and you walk into that house, you're like, oh my God, this is my dream home. I've always wanted this. You're actually not connecting to the visible representation of that house. You're connecting to what the spiritual representation of that house means for you. And what it means is that life is giving you a light up effect to say this person needs this event in their life to happen as part of fate, karma, and destiny to basically help you learn a lesson. And most of the times, 99% of those lessons are involved with what you don't need or realizing what you don't want in your life, which leads you to having a high and a low roller coaster experience. And for people who eventually want to not be on the roller coaster of life with these high highs and these low lows, you learn to let go of a connection event and having these things pull you from left and right to having a discernment event, which is not a soulmate, but a life partner relationship. And it's about the subtleties. It's about you recognizing, taking a step back. Is this in alignment with what I need in my life?
What we're saying is that the two currents to life. If I can simplify it, the base current is your connection. The higher current is your reflection. When you encounter a space that you reflect and say, man, it's beautiful, you're observing and it's peaceful, it looks great, I don't feel a connection here, you're in a reflexive state. If you're in a state where you walk in and say, man, I feel this really powerful connection, you're in a connection state. Your higher spiritual purpose, aside from your karmic purpose, is going to at different times come in and try and slap you, hit you over the head, create what seems like a distressful situation or a life experience to get you to snap out of this karmic connection and be in a more higher reflective perspective experience where you say, gosh, I'm looking at the stuff that's going on and I want to change it. I don't want to be defined by it. I don't want this to be my life. I don't want these to be my relationships. So your guardian angels, your spirit guides, your totem animals, whatever you want to call upon or look to, are going to cause Shaktipat, they're going to cause dark night of the soul, they're going to cause disruption in your life to say, break free of your karma and move into a reflective state of your spiritual path, of your spiritual purpose. So when you have these negative things that happen consistently, gosh, it means you're going down the wrong path. You're not addressing the greater lessons of why you're here. You're only on track to reinforce the previous lessons.
And I want to take a step back from this too, and saying that people, as you naturally age, you talk to a 50-year-old and they'll tell you this naturally. They're like, oh my God, I've gone through so many mistakes in life. And now I know if I'm initially drawn to something in a person, I know, oh no, I need to stay away from it because I know that I'm drawn to, the Twinkie, and nobody's necessarily drawn to the broccoli that's supposed to be good for them. So we're trying to teach people, you might be in your 20s or earlier, and some people have great wisdom. I know I certainly did not at that time period. So helping you to skip over some of these mistakes for yourself. And that brings us to our second bullet point, which is time is our most precious resource and one that we don't get back. So there's two ways that you can cheat time. The first is taking the grace of learning from somebody else's mistakes. So, and this is what really mentors are about. A great mentor doesn't necessarily show you everything, how to do it right. A great mentor lets you do two things. One, make your own mistakes, and two, help you to see the wisdom that they've achieved from their own mistakes. If you can accept this, you can skip over some of this time element. And I'll give you an example. I don't need to be addicted to crack cocaine to know that I don't need crack cocaine in my life. I can look at documentaries and see how people have been affected by drugs. I can look and see how people have struggled with addictions in their family. And I can say, you know what? I don't need that. And then once I realize I don't need that, I don't spend most of my waking life thinking about, I sure wake up every day and I hope I don't get addicted to crack cocaine today. No, it's so far my memory and ingrained that I know I don't need that. It's a natural boundary. So if I see something that says danger, this is going to be an experience that's going to fuck my life up. And similar to being addicted to crack cocaine, I'm going to naturally have something waking up within my spirit and say, I shouldn't be doing this. There's something off. There's something wrong. There's a danger element that is here. This is the type of boundaries that we are talking about. And it's not a belief. It's not, I just believe that crack cocaine is wrong because I've heard it. No, I've seen from movies, from people, from other people's experience. No, I don't need that. Take that in your own life. When you have gotten sick and tired of having late payments because you don't have money coming in, or being in relationships where you prioritize other people above yourself and being drained, you then know I don't need that in my life. And it's so ingrained into your spirit that nothing anyone tells you can convince you to want to willingly take this within 300 miles of your whole being. That's the type of boundary that will set you up for success because it's ingrained in who you are, and it naturally will create you to do a 180 away from something that is in alignment with that which you know is not for what you need. So I hope that gives them more clarity on the whole idea of how what you don't need in your life creates boundaries for you.
Let me give you another perspective. When I was 35 years old, I was a waiter at Olive Garden. And I looked at my father, who was in his early 60s, and he couldn't retire. He didn't have retirement. And I sat back and said, gosh, I love my dad, but I don't want to be that guy. I don't want to be. So I looked at myself at 35. My knees hurt. I wasn't in a great shape. I'm not in great shape now, but I really wasn't in great shape then. And I sat back and said, what can I do now to change so at 60-ish I can retire? I had spent a good part of my youth in the military. I never finished because I don't want to be tied down, and I don't want to have to go to work, and I wanted to call my own hours. But the reality is, when you're young, you don't look at how you're going to be when you get older, as Franz mentioned earlier. So I went back in the military, and then I ended up retiring. I'm retired military now, and that gave me my base and my launch pad to then look at everything I didn't want to do in my life so I could make better choices about what my passion is. Most importantly, look at everything you don't want to do in your life, everything you don't want to do. And then when you narrow it down to the things that you're interested in, go and talk to people who are veterans in those businesses and say, hey, are you happy 20 years later? Are you happy 30 years later? Were you able to retire? Were you able to have your family and have your cake and eat it too? And you find that the thing that's really going to be your passion and your fulfillment now, and as you can find what's going to make you happy now, it doesn't matter what it is. You can find what brings you the passion right now. You'll find success in life. I have found a lot of success in my life, and it wasn't from being this big stockbroker, big money guy. It was from doing healing work. It was from offering mentoring and an insight in the spiritual philosophy that I studied as I've traveled in the world looking for gurus and things like that. So I've had these wake-up experiences, even being in the military, as I've traveled in the world, as I've been a combat veteran, and as I've done all these really interesting things. And on my path, my karmic path, all of the really powerful connections that I met with people, I steered away from. I showed them a great amount of respect. I showed these people, these experiences, these locations, respect. I took responsibility. I made more mature decisions. And then I expanded my horizon, traveling and interacting with the different places and people and cultures to enter into places to where I didn't feel that connection. As Franz was saying, I didn't want to eat the broccoli, but I knew by eating the broccoli, in the short and long term, it'd be much healthier than eating the Twinkies and the Ho-Hos and the donuts. So I've avoided all those, and it's done very well for me because I didn't follow that connection. I didn't feel that, bam, that I had to go in, Joe, and I had to feel this incredible connection. No. Karmic, horrible kiss of death, it's going to plateau your growth. And then we're going to have the dark night, the stall events are coming in and say, you're on the wrong path. You need to change what you're doing.
And one of the things I want to bring up into this is our second point on why people sometimes can have what we call a blowback experience from manifestation or law of attraction, or what we call a wasted momentum experience. They're two sides of the same coin. So the first is understanding. We've talked about the importance of understanding the general overview story of your life, the general story that you came in here with, your purpose and things like that. Once you get that, it's like the actor in a movie understanding what their role of their character is. They have to know who their character is in order to better portray that character on film or on camera. The same thing for your life. You are here in a grand play on a big stage of the world and the universe. Understand who your character is. That means understand your highs and your lows, your fears, your hopes, your dreams, all of those things. When you try to manifest something that is in direct opposition of your general overflowing idea of your character. So let's say, for instance, one of your purposes for being here is to be a minister or is to be, and it doesn't mean that the minister means you're going to have a mega church or that you're going to be a shepherd or an online pastor. It could be as simple as being a mentor at a Boys and Girls Club. It could be as simple as sharing your story through a book. But if that's part of your role, that means you're probably going to have a lot of things in life to learn some lessons so that people can learn from your mistakes, because you often learn compassion because you've been in that situation before. So if you are trying to manifest all of these things, know that life is going to recurve your life to put you more at odds of the material things of this world, put you more at odds of the chasings after want and desire, because you're meant to accumulate mistakes so that you learn from them and then you have a testimony to give to other people. That should be a clue to you. Let me take a step further. The second aspect of that is looking that there's only so many finite resources available. So when you're trying to, let's say everyone wants to manifest winning a lottery ticket, or everybody wants to manifest $1 million, there's literally not enough money in the world for everybody to be a billionaire. And then if everybody was a millionaire, then now you have inflation because there's no longer a high and a low anymore. So you have to realize that you only need to ask for generalities, not specifics, and be cognizant and mindful of that. What are the consequences of the things that you're asking for in your life? If you're asking for this one specific position, well, in order for you to get that position, somebody else has to be denied that position. And there's always a checks and a balance system. So if you have something that is coming to you as a deposit, you're going to have something coming to you looking for that credit back later in life. Which is why we always talk about, people say pay it forward, because you're almost paying forward so that you're kind of helping to offset that balancing act in life. So it's important when you're asking. I'll give you an example because I'm always a believer in concrete examples. I don't wake up in the mornings and say, gee, I want to be a millionaire. I think about, what does it mean, the minimum level of fulfillment on that level related to my second chakra of career and fortune. That's going to be related to, am I in a job or am I in a career, something that brings me money that is able to help me meet my minimum bills? Am I able to be respected and heard? Do I feel as though it gives me a minimal level of respect with the people that I work with and the people who I work for? All of these things are generalities and not huge, grandiose specifics, so that I know by getting this, there are a multiple plethora of opportunities that can match this, versus if I'm so specific and say, I want to be the VP of Chase Bank. That's one position. And you're locking yourself into something that you don't know all the ins and outs of what's actually involved in that position. The grass always looks greener on another side. But you know what they also say about that? It's because that's where the dog shits the most. So don't ask for specifics, ask for generalities, and ask for things that are in alignment with what the basic needs are that you're looking for to be met. And then life can give you what we call bonuses. And once you meet the minimum, then everything is a bonus on top of that. And you'll be much happier, be much more fulfilled. Did you want to add on to why we also don't go into specifics because of the aspect of wasted momentum from those type of interactions as well?
As you grow in life, you gain momentum. You can gain momentum by doing Tai Chi, Qigong, yoga, Kundalini, Hatha yoga, different yoga practices. We have our own version spiritually of how to build momentum. Momentum is your internal power. And when you ask for certain things, or you reach for certain things, or you try and take a jump or a quantum leap, you're going to pull from that power source and use that. In magic, they would call it a spell. You are taking a desire, you're formulating what the whole picture will look like, and you release to the universe and it manifests. But that power to manifest has to come from somewhere, and it gets depleted. When you are asking for specifics, you are saying from a place of greed, want, desire. It's a connection, which means it's going to be karmic. And you're saying, I'm trying to create a parallel timeline in addition to my current timeline of more of the old on a more powerful level. Kiss of death. It's the old saying that this is what I asked for, but it's really not what I wanted. And then it becomes a waste of time. So you put all those energy and its time in. You may have gotten a job, but it hurts your relationship with your spouse or your partner or with your kids or your friends, or it hurts your health, or it took away all your free time. You got what you asked for, but it wasn't what you wanted. So if we go to, as Franz was saying, the minimum, the generality, the overall viewpoint, overall perspective, then we're inviting the best in every category, not the connection, but the reflection, even though if it's seemingly unknown. And this is fantastic. Spiritually, for the higher spiritual purpose, we're walking a reflective path into the unknown path, unknown destination. If you only stay what feels safe, where you feel connected, then you are most likely repeating past cycles, karmic cycles. If you venture into new territory, of course, you want to discern, you want to be aware, you want to trust your gut instinct. If you do it in this way, you're going to open the door to greater whole life fulfillment versus a want, a desire that manifests only to sit back afterwards and say, gosh, it's really not what I wanted, just what I asked for. But what I really wanted is, so you don't want to make the mistake again past that. You want to take a step back and be reflective.
And the other thing, too, in summary on this is when you put all of your energy and things into chasing one specific goal, like let's say you say, I want to win this Ironman competition I'm going into. You've done all of these things into months and months of training to lead up to this event. And when that event is over, what do you do next? So now you put all of these things building up to this one thing. Now that momentum is gone. And it's manifested one specific thing and one specific goal into your life. Versus if you take it to say, I really want to be at an optimal state of physical health, whatever that looks like for you, whatever you realize your minimum is, then it's an ongoing picture for your life. So your momentum is only adding because you're not creating a final destination or a peak that when you reach this peak, there's nothing higher for you to achieve. So when you build in generalities, it gives you room to grow. It gives you ways to stockpile and to step up and move your momentum into new and exciting ways as you step up the ladder in life without hitting a goal, achieving it, and then realizing what's the next major goal I need to achieve, and then what's the next major goal I need to achieve, because then you begin to chase the high, and every time you reach the pinnacle, you feel like there's nothing left for you at this level, so you got to get the next best thing.
Do we want life to unfold? Do we want life to get better? Or do we want to chase a want or a desire? I mean, that's really what it comes down to. So we have the karma, we have the fate, we have the destiny. Are we going to be defined by this path that we call life? Or are we going to recognize it and move beyond it? Are we going to use what we have, what we know we have as a stepping stone? Or are we going to continue to be tricked, baited, deceived by the trap, all that glitters is gold, that connection event? Or life unfolds, life becomes better. We're going into unknown territory. We're chasing whole life fulfillment. We're not chasing a desire.